Hello, this webinar is called The Star Spangled Banner, the Battle of Baltimore, and Our National Anthem, and it's a part of a multi-part series on the Star Spangled Banner, its background, and its story. Well, in August of 1814, the British are fresh off the burning of Washington, and they're implementing their East Coast strategy. Next, in September of 1814, was Baltimore, the third largest city. If it falls, the East Coast falls. And the privateers are there, and boy, do we want to get back at the privateers. Well, the approach to taking Baltimore was going to be two-pronged. It was going to be a land approach, a sea approach, but standing in the way was Fort McHenry. The local anti-war newspaper issued a call to action after what it had seen done just a few weeks before in Washington, D.C. It said this: "Unless the country is to be abandoned by the people, that every man should awake, arouse, and prepare for action." And boy, did they. First of all, Major George Armistead was commissioned to Fort McHenry just 1 year earlier at the age 33. He knew that the fort could be a target, so he had commenced fort improvements already. He had also seen fit to get a hold of Mary Pickersgill, a 38-year-old flag seamstress who made flags for ships. He commissioned her and her 13-year-old daughter to make two flags. One, a 14 by 25 foot storm flag to be flown in inclement weather at the fort, and secondly, a 30 by 42 foot garrison flag that would be flown under normal conditions. Ultimately, 7 women worked on them day and night, and they had to go to the local brewery to have enough room to work on them on the floor. Major Armistead said this: "I want a flag so large the British will have no problem seeing it from a distance." Well, General Samuel Smith also began to prepare. He was a local militia leader. He was devout in his faith. In fact, he was able to translate the Greek New Testament at age 7. He convinced local sailors, merchants, and privateers to sink their ships to block passage of the British to Baltimore. And they responded, sinking 22 ships in the harbor. Business leaders taking on the sacrifice of liberty. Francis Scott Key, then 35 years old, was a local attorney, and he heads out to the British fleet arriving on September 7th. He had in mind a prisoner exchange, and he took with him John Skinner, the director of prisoner exchange, and this was common to do between the two nations at this time. They were seeking the release of Dr. William Beanes. Well, they secured his release, but they were kept on a British ship since Baltimore action was about to begin. Just a few days later, on September 11th, Sunday morning, the alarm cannon sounded during church services. The British were approaching. Pastor Jacob Gruber, a 36-year-old colorful minister, said this: "Bless King George, convert him, give him a short life, and happy death." General Samuel Smith rallied the militia. They took up their positions. Monday, September 12th, rain begins to fall. The storm flag is hoisted. 4,500 British disembark from their ship and begin to make their way along land. They have good success, and they advance during that first day. The second day they continued their advance to the fort, but remarkably were stopped by 12,000 militia, citizens, and soldiers. And that, of course, left the British with their second course of action through the water. On Tuesday morning, September 13th, at 6:30 a.m., the bombardment begins. 200-pound bombs, Congreve rockets, mortars, and ordnances rained down on Fort McHenry. It went on all day long. The British ships were outside the fort's range. It went into the night. It went dark into the night. In Baltimore, it said that the shock waves broke windows and knocked doors off hinges. In the middle of the night, a secret attacking force of 1,200 men in small boats attempted to row behind the fort. Mistakenly thinking they were safe, they fired a signal rocket to the British. This revealed their presence to the Americans, and they were decimated with fire and withdrew. The bombs and rockets continued through the night. Between 1,500 to 1,800 bombs, rockets, mortars, and other ordnances were fired. Well, the next morning on September 14th at 7:30 a.m., the guns fell silent. Fog and smoke surrounded the fort. The flagpole can be seen in and out of the fog, but no flag is on it. Will it be a white flag of surrender that goes up next, or a British flag showing that the fort is taken? Well, unbeknownst to them, the storm flag had been taken down, and the garrison flag had then been hoisted. Moved with deep emotion, he began to write, "Oh, say can you see, by the dawn's early light, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does the Star-Spangled Banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?" Well, he continued to work on his poem. He continued the work as he came ashore on September 16, 1814. It was finished, and it was immediately set to music and became a favorite national song and hymn. But there are actually 4 stanzas to the song, but we only sing the first stanza today. The 4th stanza actually includes our national motto and is worth taking a look at because it has deep meaning. "Oh, thus be it ever, when free men shall stand between their loved homes and the war's desolation. Blessed with victory and peace, may the heaven-rescued land praise the power that hath made and preserved us a nation. Then conquer we must, for our cause it is just, and this be our motto, in God is our trust. And the Star-Spangled Banner forever shall wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave." So this last stanza speaks of the heaven-rescued land. So let's take a look at these events in a keener light. The rain that fell during September 12th to 13th softened the ground and absorbed more bombs than normal. One bomb that was a direct hit on the fort's gunpowder building miraculously did not explode. There was the providential discovery of the secret attacking force that gave themselves away and were fired upon. And then lastly, only 4 out of 1,000 men died after 15 to 1,800 bombs over a 25-hour period. Well, 25 years before, the first president of the United States, George Washington, said this in his inaugural address: "No people can be bound to acknowledge and adore the invisible hand which conducts the affairs of men more than the people of the United States. Every step by which they have advanced to the character of an independent nation seems to have been distinguished by some token of providential agency." Indeed, we do have something to reflect upon here. As we close out this webinar, let's take a look at some life lessons for today. Each generation must have leaders that step up and lead, and a person is never too young to take up this role. Second of all, leaders need to be able to anticipate challenges to liberty and prepare a response. Thirdly, sacrifice is required to preserve liberty. Fourthly, courage must be maintained even when things are bleak. Fifthly, business leaders, pastors, homemakers, and youth are all needed to fight for liberty. Sixthly, prayer and trusting God's providences are key to our national experience. And then seventh and finally, stories of history and bravery must be taught and passed on to future generations. I hope you've enjoyed this webinar. My name is Craig Seibert. Thanks for listening.